Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's first law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
Selector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
And we'll be starting off, as you know, with The Blade itself, the first book in the original trilogy. We'll be covering The First of the Magi, The Good Man, On the List, and An Offer and a Gift. So we'll be covering those chapters in this episode. So let's get started. All right. So we'll be starting off with The First of the Magi again. And this chapter, Harrison or George, do you guys want to start off with talking about what we encounter in this chapter?
Go for it, George. You were pretty excited.
Yeah,
of course.
George he's amped for this one.
So, first thing I want to say, right? I love this chapter so much. It's just fantastic. I know I say that about every chapter so far, but this one's particularly fantastic because we meet the main man. I was going to say something,
First of the Magi. Yeah.
First of the Magi. Exactly. And I really can't say anything. I don't know why I was excited because everything I want to say is a spoiler.
It's written very, very, very well in a second read through.
Right. No, for sure.
So in this chapter, Malachus Quai, the apprentice, wakes up and he's very, very sick. And of course, he can't walk or move. They've got very little food left and they're still stuck 40 miles away from where they need to be at the Great Northern Library. And I think Logan makes a little joke here about eating Quai if he dies, and I don't think it is a joke.
He probably would.
He would definitely eat him.
I mean, what do you think, Harrison?
I mean, I definitely think he that he would have. He was saying it to be playful, but at the same time, he was like, "I'll do it."
Oh yeah, I mean, you got to be realistic, haven't you?
Yeah, and then he is sitting there talking to him, and he's all like, "Leave me the food," and he's like, "Nope."
Yeah. So if during that part, it makes you think that Logan's just gonna leave him behind.
Yeah, it's definitely a good bait and switch, from what we know about Logan.
And then he he picks up Quai. He's like, I can't carry you 40 miles without it, so let's go.
Yeah,
I think that part's super important too. Up to this point, we know him to be kind of out for himself. He didn't really spend much time to look for other people. He doesn't really have direction, and he thinks about it for a minute too. He's thinking about how he could leave him. He's done it before. It's not a big deal. He could get there way faster, but instead he decides to pick him up, which is a good moment for his character, I think.
But a heartbreaking loss because we lose the pot.
He does leave behind the pot, yes.
He leaves behind the pot as it would be too heavy for him to carry, along with the hapless apprentice. So we must pay tribute to the loyal pot.
And that is it. It's a good little image there. I wish I could paint because I'd love to paint a picture of that. The pot was sitting forlorn by the lake, already filling up with rainwater.
I was about to say that would have been a really good picture. It's a good point, George. It also is like it's like legend says that pot's still there.
Yeah. What I really want to know is how can a pot be forlorn?
The pot has human attributes, didn't you know? I'll put that in my to-do list. I'll draw that pot in that scene. I'll do that for you, George.
You should.
So then we get to the part where they see the two stones that I guess mark the road to the Northern Library. And that's where there's carvings, letters carved into the stones. And then, Malachus Quai, first time talking, 2 days since Logan decides to pick him up. He's like, the first law. And Logan's just like, what? Like, what?
I love that name drop as well, obviously, like for the whole series, or the trilogy at least.
Yeah, it comes like kind of out of the blue, and it kind of has this ominous feeling to it, which I love when anytime it comes to magic in the series. I love the kind of horror ominous, kind of scary feeling you get when it comes to magic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the very first time we hear anybody talk about it, it's with, in a fever dream, and it's like a nightmare.
Yeah, he's scared.
Mm-hmm. And there's a good exposition where he says it's forbidden to touch the other side, but it's just enough to inform the reader, but not to inundate the reader with too much.
Exactly. I mean, it's what, like 2 lines?
Yeah, if that. To speak with devils, the creatures of the world below are made of lies.
And
You
Logan's
mustn't
just
do
like,
it.
oh, he's just in the he's just delirious, isn't he? So
Yeah. Logan's like, all right, I won't do it. All right, calm down, buddy.
yeah, I promise. Come on.
I love it. Logan's like, this guy's fucking crazy.
Yeah, So then they go, and then Logan's at this point, he's just tired of all the walking and the starving and the cold. He's just pissed off. He's just angry with the way his life has turned out. Then they finally get to the library, and it's interesting that there's a bridge, if I'm not mistaken, right? And it's a small bridge, a skinny bridge, I should say. It's a skinny bridge that leads to a natural cliff. And then you couldn't storm this wall, because the ledge is so thin. So there's not enough room. You couldn't put 1,000 people on it to storm this place. And so
it's basically unbreachable.
Yeah, it's unbreachable. So then Logan knocks on the door, on the big gate. And this is... Should we do the character spot now or later? Like, what do you want to do?
We should talk about it now. Fuck it.
Okay. Normally we do the character spots, a couple segments down the line in an episode, but we'll do it now. And our character spot is this gentleman, the guy who is.
Does he have a name?
He has no name. He's just a guard. He's an old guard. And Logan knocks on the gate, and then a narrow hatch opens, and then Logan just sees a pair of roomy eyes.
He's like,
and go ahead.
like,
yeah, we'll reenact this part for you guys. Go ahead.
who's this now?
Logan Nine Fingers is my name. I've
Never heard of you.
come to see Baez, the first of the.
Yes, he's here. He's not taking visitors. I told him. I can't fucking say it with a straight face. Yes, he's here. He isn't taking visitors. I told that to the last messenger.
I'm no messenger. I have Malachus Quai with me.
Malika, what?
Quai, the apprentice.
Apprentice?
He's very ill. He may die.
Ill, you say? That was it?
Yes.
And what was your name again?
Just open the fucking door. Please.
We don't let anyone in. Hold up. Show me your hands.
What?
Your hands.
There are 9. There's one missing, see?
9, is it? You should have said. So fucking stupid, bro. The old man's just like not even paying attention to what Logan's saying the whole time.
He's both the best and the worst guard ever.
Because nobody would ever get in.
But whoever put this guy up, if his master is Baez or whatever, a genius level move.
There's
I just have this idea of this whole army parked outside the Great Wall, and there's just one guy at the front going, "Look, we're going to besiege you," and he's like, "What?
Besiege what?
Besiege what? What's a siege?"
Siege, you say?
Siege, you say? Starve us out, is it?
Listen, old man. My name is blah blah blah. He just interrupts him the whole time. He never lets him speak.
I'll put everyone to the sword. To the sword, is it?
No, I can't do that right now. Sorry. Master Baez says he's not doing any of that today. I love that.
Yeah,
Malika, what?
So the ancient gatekeeper is our character for our character spot today. He's our choice. And when he opens the door, he has this giant sword that's way too big for him that apparently he's holding very precariously. Like he just put somebody's eye out. Like it's a Christmas story or something. and then Logan goes, "I surrender." And you know that this gatekeeper has probably heard that joke his entire life.
Yeah.
That's probably
Oh.
why he is the way he is. He's just that way on purpose, which is great. So then, George, you want to continue this part, like walking us through this chapter?
Yeah, of course. So we go into the Great Northern Library, and it's sort of just like it's just like a regular village by the sounds of things. There's people going about their lives, and Logan even remarks like, "This is pretty similar to the way that we lived before the Shanker came and burned the village."
Mm-hmm.
And that's until he actually sees the library itself. These, this enormous sort of set of towers built into the mountain, which is a wonderful idea.
Mm-hmm.
And he's looking around for Baez because obviously that's why they've come in, and he's still carrying Malachus all the way up here.
Right.
So you just want to get on with it, don't you?
Yeah. He's like, can I just put him down?
I know he's about to pass out.
The people he sees is a woman carrying milk, a blacksmith, a butcher, and then finally this what's described as a magnificent old man. Your typical Gandalf. He sounds exactly like Gandalf, actually.
He does.
Dressed in white with a long beard, a hooked nose, white hair spilling from under a white skull. Well, not the skull cap, but
This
Got a
was,
fucking baseball cap on.
And yeah, it's not him, is it?
well, right, because Logan was impressed, and then he goes to him. He's like, the wizard says to set him down, to set Qui down on the ground, and then Logan's like, I brought your apprentice back, and then he goes, mine. And then Logan's like, aren't you? He's confused. Like, aren't you biased? He's like, no, I'm just the servant. I'm the lead servant, at least, And then we hear
Wells.
Yeah, Wells. And then from a voice from behind, we hear, I am Baez. Then it's the fucking butcher.
Of course.
He's just not even being a magus.
Mm-hmm. And I like that juxtaposition, really. Like someone you expect to be a magnificently dressed or regal character, you would say, wise. I'm just done butchering this animal and just washing the blood off his hands. And then, but as he gets closer, he sees that there's like an air of command around this guy. Like he's used to giving out orders and being obeyed,
Yeah, he gets the idea that he's like kind of not conventional, but this guy definitely isn't someone I want to fuck with.
And he's aware of who Logan Ninefingers is. They call the one they call the Bloody Nine. He's heard stories about him, even shut up in the library, which means that word of mouth is really traveled in the north when it comes to Logan's deeds.
Yeah, we'll cover that more later.
Oh,
Right.
yes.
Yes, we
That's
will.
another thing. Like, there is a lot to say here, but there's also a lot we can't say.
Right. And then
So we should probably skip a little bit ahead.
Yeah, we can skip.
So Bethel's son Calder turns up, who is described as by Baez as absolute shit, which is just that's just perfect. Even when we get his point of view later, he's still just absolute shit.
Yeah, he's a spore little cunt.
And here we get the first sort of little whiff of magic, of Baez's magic, which seems to be, nothing, special or spectacular. There's no fire and lightning and all that. It's just making this man kind of squirm on the ground a bit.
Right. Just choking. He's doing the Force choke from Star Wars, right? Basically.
Yeah, exactly. Which is not a good move for Gandalf,
And then he does reference how it's just, I believe, does he reference how he does it here in this chapter?
I don't think he does.
He does reference it at some point.
He does. He references afterwards, when Calder leaves. Yeah.
Oh yeah, a little trick of it.
Yeah, he mentions how it's a trick of entering flesh.
Right.
Which is interesting.
Right. So,
it's more of a science to him,
Yeah, but it kind of it rings a little bit of like blood magic.
Like blood magic?
Yeah, sort of. The fact that you can literally manipulate flesh.
Okay.
That's true, but not to spoil too much. But it seems to be something that other characters have the capacity to do as well.
That is true.
That's true. So he basically puts Calder in his place after Calder's like, "Yo, my man, my dad has been trying to summon you. He's commanded you to, show up to Carleon, I believe he says to Carleon." And then Baez is not happy about that. Puts him in his place. and then he just says, "You may go." He's like, "If your dad wants to talk to me, he can come here himself. Other than that, bye bye." And then, right, and then Calder just runs for the hills.
Yeah.
And then here, Baez really, he's like the knowledge that Baez has is interesting. Like how does he know that Logan Nine Fingers can speak to spirits? Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
He's like, I understand.
Well,
Like,
well,
because he says, I understand you can speak to spirits, and like it's rare. You know, it's a rare gift. How would he know?
I mean, there's definitely something else going on there.
Right. Like, how does, like we talked about it, I believe, in the other episode. How does Logan even know he had that? He just spitting liquor over a campfire. It's like, oh shit, we got spirits.
there is a specific reason.
I mean, it's not so, it's not so big of a leap to assume, since he's actually heard of his stories and things like that, that the fact that he could speak to the
Yeah,
spirits.
and like, I mean, we don't need to beat around the bush too much, but Bias is an old fuck.
Yeah, he's been around the block.
He's been around a while, so it's not unimaginable for him to, kind of know how it works.
Especially if he's, keeping an eye out for such an individual.
That's true, and as we learned, Baez always has an ear out. So then he offers Logan some food, a bath, and safety, and Logan nearly weeps. He nearly just cries because, I mean, when was the last time he had all three in supply?
I mean, yeah, I imagine being living, off the wild and trying to survive for what is it at this point? Like, I don't think it's been explicitly mentioned, but it's got to be a couple of years.
It's been approximately 5 years.
So yeah, 5 years
5 years
living
in the wild. Okay.
and then suddenly, you can have a bath and food. You would be beyond relieved.
Oh, for sure.
And that's just another way that these characters are just so fantastic,
For sure. So what do you guys rate this chapter as? George, you go first since you're so excited.
Well, this has got to be the first and probably
Do it.
You're gonna
9
do it?
out of 9.
Oh my
Bloody
god!
fingers
You're going 9 out of 9.
straight away.
Wow. Okay. Well, explain.
It's just Baez,
Mm-hmm.
I just can't explain.
Mm.
Because right now, what we have is, a friendly, he's sympathetic to Logan.
Mm-hmm.
He's a nice man. He's got, obviously very powerful and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the tiny little.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk about
it's
it.
just written so well, like we kind of saying earlier, as a second read through. It's amazing on the second read through because it really is. It just says so much, and not even just by it. It's about Logan and where he's at in headspace, but a lot of it's not really discovered until later on.
But I do like Calder's introduction as well. Calder is a sneaky favorite character.
Yeah, our introduction to him, he's basically a northern Giselle.
Yeah,
he's just a prick. Just a prick. Like you meet him and you instantly think this guy just like I agree with Baez. He's absolute shit.
Yeah.
So Harrison, what was your rating for the chapter?
I'm gonna say a 6 and a knuckle.
6 and a knuckle. Okay.
I do really like this chapter. I think there's a lot going on, foreshadowing and character wise, but it's also it's just not something that ever has been like, oh, I love this part, But yeah, it's still very, very good, of course.
You just broke George's heart.
Definitely. Oh my god. I thought everybody felt this way.
Okay. Well, while George recuperates, I give it a 7 out of 9. I thought it was a very, very good chapter. And was both explained by both the Arch Lecter and the Adeptus Historical here. The setup, the introduction to who will be a heavy hitter in the series, and also a sneak peek at Calder. I thought it was very well done. And yeah, I really got nothing We don't have anything negative to say about any chapter, did we?
Not really.
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
there might be some stuff later on, maybe.
Maybe. We'll see. So, since we did the character spot in this chapter, I guess we'll go straight to the next chapter read through. This one is called The Good Man, and this is the first chapter where we have the point of view of Major West. Harrison, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah. So we kind of pick up with West. He's seems like he's just doing guard duty. He's in the in Lord Hoff's. He's the Chamberlain. Jeffrey's namesake, and he's basically just sitting there watching the proceedings go by as these people come in. A peasant comes in talking about his farm, and what we kind of get the vibe from the Lord Chamberlain is that he kind of just divvies out all the priorities away from him. The Lord Chamberlain speaks for the king, and he has the most of the authority of the king as well, but the king has been at this point delegated to not doing anything. So the Lord Chamberlain himself pretty much just passes off whoever comes in. So every single person that comes in, the mercers come in to lodge a complaint against the Archlector or the Inquisition. But he kind of blows them off because he's like, well, if it's a problem for them, then you can go talk to them. A peasant comes in, he's like, oh, if it's a problem with this office or that office, which is interesting that the Union has so many different minor offices to take care of different issues and administration.
Right.
But the vibe we get as well is from Hoff is that he is also kind of he's just a drunk because he doesn't do anything. He just tells people to go away pretty much. And he tells them, he just gets drunk all day long.
Yeah, he gets hammered. I think West points out that there's a horrible justice to it where the poor and the rich alike are treated equally.
Yeah, because everything is below the king. So it doesn't matter, what kind of complaint you have, how important you think you are. You're not as important as the king, so fuck off.
Right.
Yeah, and the proceedings kind of go that way, as we don't really see too much of what Wes is thinking. He feels kind of bad for the farmer, and then they get a word of some ambassadors, which is something the king can still actually do. So the Chamberlain tells him to come in, and we get a strange fellow.
Yeah, we get a group of people from the north. We get White Eye Hansel, I believe. We get 2 no-name guards, you could say, or like companions. And we get Fenris the Feared. But we don't see Fenris because he's cloaked, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but he does have to stoop to come into the doorway.
Right, and the door is, 7 feet tall?
No way, man.
That's what it says?
He definitely says it's higher than that.
Yeah, he says he had to stoop to get under the lintel, which was a good 7 feet above the floor.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah. I don't know why, but yeah. So that would make him, like a solid 8 feet tall and well built.
Jesus Christ.
Which is, I think that's actually impossible. Like, there's no real world equivalent of that.
It does make sense, and it does line up with the other character heights that we kind of see.
And I really think it's kind of a wonder how they all don't just run away straight away the second they see him.
Right.
Yeah, if you saw it,
I think they all do. They all get tensed up.
They all like shifted uncomfortably for sure, because there's something coming off him, like just for lack of a better term, fear. And only one that didn't seem to be affected by it was Hoff,
which I love because he's like he's kind of drunk and he's also like, oh, you think you're the hot shit?
Right. He's like, so you're messengers from Bethod. What do you want? And then Why I Hansel is, you could tell he's smooth for a Northman. He's charismatic.
Yeah. He doesn't even have an accent, really.
No, yeah, without any accent. And he says that he's there as a translator for Fenris. Fenris doesn't say anything. And White Eye's just looking up at him like even he's scared. He's like, okay. So I'm just here to tell you what he supposedly wants. And they tell him, the Lord Chamberlain, that they bring an offer of peace from Bethod to their king, to the Union's king, and then a gift to show their good faith, nothing more. And this puts Hoff in a very good mood. You know, because before that he was in a shit mood. He was berating his secretary, who just seems terrified of him.
It's also like in the middle. I think it's early summer at this point as well.
Oh yeah, it's
which
baking in there.
is in Midland, the summer it's pretty warm. The winter gets pretty cold too. So the seasons are pretty drastic. So they're like sitting there, like you said, it's like an oven.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're sweating profusely and all that. And so Lord Hoff is like, sure, you guys can see the king tomorrow. And he was the nicest with them as compared to Goodman Heath and the Mercer guy, Coster Dan Colt. Yeah,
and I think that really speaks to sort of like we'll see with the Open Council in the next couple of chapters, but like it's very self-serving. He's got good news, so it's going to increase his popularity.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Yeah. Again, another close council member who's just selfish.
Right.
Yeah.
Which you got to be if you're gonna hold a position on the close council. And then
not at all like real life.
yeah,
right,
totally,
exactly.
totally fantastical.
Yeah.
So this next part I just want to highlight real quick because it's one of the funniest things. He's like, okay, who's the last guy? And the secretary just goes, we have a Yoru Sulfur? And he goes, what? And he's like, who? He's like, Sulfur, I don't know, something. And then he's like, okay, never heard of him. What is he? He's not another peasant, is he? He's like, an emissary? He's like, but from who? he's cringing. It says he's cringing. He's like, oh my God, from the Great Order of Magi. If you hear Pacey's narration of that, it is hilarious because I heard it yesterday. It was
dude, he's so good at the comedic timing.
So good. So then Hoff, he starts laughing, and he's excited to see him because I guess it's
entertaining.
It's entertaining. And so Yoru Sulfur walks in, and he just looks like a regular dude. He's barely dressed better than Goodman Heath over here, and he does have a staff. But other than that, he looks like a guy in his middle 30s, and he just seems to be very matter of fact. Nice, amicable. What did you guys glean from Yoru Sulfur's introduction here?
Well, we get the immortal description of him, which is you've got the curly brown hair and different coloured eyes, one blue, one green, which is as we know, very important later.
That's true.
And I like the fact that he's actually genuine. We get he takes such a fucking piss out of this is going to be a fucking swindler or it's going to be a madman or something like that, and he's just like, no, I've got this letter actually.
Right, he's got this letter that apparently has some accurate or confidential information on it because Hoff interrogates him at first before getting to the letter, and he's like, I've had 3 people that said they were from the Great Order of Magi. 2 were crazy as fuck, and 1 was a brave swindler, right? He says something like that.
Yeah.
And then Sulfur gives him the documents, and then Sulfur just walking around the room while Lord Hoff is reading, and he goes to West, and then he basically repeats to West what West was thinking a couple pages ago about how hot it is and how the guards don't just basically pass out, and that's like, oh, this guy's for real.
I do also like a little before that how when he comes in, he's all talking about Baez's open seat on the closed council and how it's going to be heralded by another person. And he's like, well, it is time. It's me. I'm the herald. And how the keeper like, wait, you're Baez? And he's like, no. And he's like genuinely confused. He's like, no, Baez? No, that's my master. I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, you guys are weird.
Baez is a bald gentleman. You've got a statue of him outside.
He's like, how do you not know this?
Was I wrongly announced? It's like, you goofballs! Like, what the fuck?
I said who I was.
Mhm.
And I love how he comes in expecting feet.
Right.
The Lord
Oh,
that's
yes.
just died, and he's like, and he's obviously like a bit bemused, isn't he? He's like, what the fuck is going on here? Why didn't
Yeah.
they just let me in?
Yeah.
It's kind of like whenever you're working a job and some kind of corporate person comes in, but you don't know he's actually with corporate, but he's acting like he is, and you're like, and he's like, "Hey, is Gregory here?" And he's like, "You're like, no, Gregory died last week," and the guy's like, well, that's who I need to speak to, and I'm with corporate, so
Okay. I need to speak to somebody important.
yeah, exactly.
I need you to speak a manager right now. And then, so he says, okay, we'll, the closed council will assist you. Yours.
Yeah, his mood changes immediately too. Like
Right,
Hoff's
after he-
mood.
After he reads the letter, he's like, okay, looks like we shouldn't talk about this during the open council. We'll just, let's just have a private conversation. he's like, what the? He's just so thrown off his game here.
And I do like how a lot of this, a lot of the stuff, the political stuff, essentially happens outside of the view of the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
And I do find that quite interesting because you sort of have to just infer what's going on for
Right.
at least the first 2 books.
Yeah, and I think that
Yeah.
kind of plays into the layers of the little mystery that's kind of being laid out right now.
Yeah, definitely a mystery being set up. And then Hoff, he basically yells at everybody to not speak a word of this to anybody. And leaving Wes to be confused. And then Wes goes out into the corridor and he sees Goodman Heath. And he wants to help, but there's no real help that he can offer him. He even says that, oh, I know somebody on the commission of Commission of Land and Agriculture?
Yeah.
Yeah, Commission for Land of Agriculture. There might be something that he can do for you. But they both knew that there wasn't going to be, like, it's not going to do anything. And so he just gives his purse to the peasant and he's out. He just walks away. He's like, I can't even look at this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it says something about West. The name of the chapter is called "The Good Man" or whatever, and he does this, but like, he doesn't really seem to be really like. What am I trying to say here? It's almost like he is kind of doing it for himself to a certain degree. He knows it's not going to do anything. He gives him money, but he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm walking away now because I am still kind of embarrassed to be around you." It's he's all about his reputation.
I don't know if it was embarrassed to be around them, just that it's an awkward situation and it's uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's what I
That's
read
a good
it.
point.
But I also agree that he might be doing it for himself on a certain level because he succeeded, even though he came from like a similar background.
Mm-hmm.
So he's trying to alleviate the sort of maybe the guilt he feels for not for having more than these people, even though they were born the same.
Mm-hmm.
That's an excellent point, George. Yes, that's exactly what I think he's kind of doing there. And it's meant to seem like he's doing it because, he's being kind, but the way he acts makes it kind of seem like it's more of a selfish act.
Okay. Interesting perspectives on that. Okay. So that was our first Major West chapter, Major West point of view. How would you guys rate that chapter?
I honestly, I'd rate that chapter probably a 3 out of 9 fingers. Like it's a good chapter, like all of it, but it doesn't really. And they introduce some things, but there's not too much going on. We don't really learn even that much about West himself. It's pretty much just kind of a setup chapter. So I'm gonna give it 3 out of 9.
3 out of 9. Okay, George.
I absolutely agree. I mean, this is definitely an exposition and world building chapter, and I love Hoff. I think Hoff is he's one of my favorite characters, just because he just doesn't give a shit.
He doesn't.
He's obviously been doing this for 30 plus years, and he's so sick of it. He just drinks all day, and he just shouts at people. Fantastic.
Yeah, he's over it for sure.
Yeah.
So you give that?
I think I'd rate that a 4 out of 10. 4 out of 9 fingers.
4 out of 9. Okay. Well, I was gonna go with that score, 4 out of 9 myself. So just because it's mainly exposition. We meet Hoff again, he's one of my favorite characters. You know, he's an equal ass to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of my favorite kind of people. And then introduction to Sulfur is good because like it does bring an air of mystery to the book, at least to this chapter. So I say 4 out of 9 fingers as well.
Excellent.
Can you repeat that?
Sorry, I was saying it's especially interesting that we've just found out that Baez is actually real and this Order of Magi is a real thing, and then you have
we
another
just
one
met.
showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that was the end of the sentence.
I was just gonna say, we just saw Baez, and then we see it kind of played up more. You know, first when we first talked about it, you're not really sure what to expect from a Baez, like some kind of old wizard, bald or something,
Right.
And then you're like, we find out like this stuff is actually kind of real, and other people are starting to take it serious.
And with the attitude that Hoff has, and we probably should assume, if you're a new reader, assume that this attitude is held throughout the Union, that the Magi aren't really a thing anymore. So it means Baez probably hasn't returned to the Union in a very, very long time, or else people will be more familiar and accepting of the idea that he would just show up.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Okay, so we got the ratings for that chapter down. And so our next segment, which should be what is the best meme of the week? George?
This happens every time. Sorry, one second. You can edit this bit out.
The Arch Lector has a lot of responsibilities. Please bear with him.
The embarrassing thing, I haven't actually picked one yet.
You have a what?
I haven't actually picked one yet.
We're doing all these episodes together. It's just fine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, none of this has come up yet. Come on.
Don't worry, the silence will be truncated. I'll edit this.
So, meme of the week comes from user Nar Butter on Reddit, which is fantastic, great name. And it's just a picture of a gun with Glock's face on it, and it's Sandan Glock.
Oh.
And that's been my.
None of us are fathers, but we all like that still.
That is fantastic. So thank you, username Nar Butter on Reddit. For that.
He's a fucking genius, that one.
Okay, so now we can move on to our next chapter read through, which is On the List. And we return to our boy, Inquisitor Glockta, who actually now is Inquisitor Exempt.
Yes.
So he's up on the totem pole there. And they're going to go not kidnap, apprehend Willem Dan Robb, the brother of the guy that snubbed Archlector Salt at a party.
Lucky him, man.
Yeah, lucky him. So they sneak into his house, him, Frost, and Severard. And Glockta doesn't even need to be there, really. But it's the idea of joining in on the excitement. It probably does something for him, considering how, like, he's such an invalid, like, a cripple, in his own words.
He can't do much. Out of all the things he can do, he can join along for this.
So I think we all know that Joe takes a lot of, inspiration from films. And I think this is very much like, that the police, like a police inspector or, or higher up that insists on doing all the little dirty jobs himself,
Yeah, he comes in with his cane and, watches over the proceedings. And
yeah, exactly. And I do like that aspect of it. Sorry, Jeff, what were you saying?
No. I was just gonna continue on what was going on. So no, that was a good point. I like that. They sneak into the house. They make it upstairs. One of the stairs made a creaking sound when Severard's walking up there. They all freeze. No one makes there's no commotion. And then as Glockta is looking at Frost, who enters through a corridor downstairs, you just hear Severard's voice. You'll want to see this. And then Glockta he turns his head around real fast, and he's already in pain. Poor guy. Poor guy. And then so they go upstairs to see what happened, and what happens? But a crime scene. Harrison, you wanna take over here?
Yeah, so they get up there, and Glockta tries to kind of keep it cool, like they're like, okay, somebody died up here, and I believe his initial thoughts is like, this is kind of a coincidence. And he takes a look around. The guy's neck was clearly cut open, and there wasn't even really a struggle. And he's laying there on the ground, and Severod's looking down at him, Frost is looking down at him, and Glockta, asks, "What do you think happened?" And it's a bit quiet. And George,
Sorry, I can't stop laughing. Poison.
Practical Frost with the comedic timing right there. Poison.
Oh, I just love that.
awesome.
Again, the best comedy trio of all time.
The best, absolutely. And so there was an open window on the was it the downstairs floor, I believe. And then so the whoever killed him got in through that, and probably
And Glockta was able to kind of determine, looking at how it was done, how swift it was, how easy it was, that it was a professional assassin.
Yeah, he tried to make it look like a robbery, but there was nothing actually taken, and that there was, and the guy made sure not to step in the blood, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yeah, he was very careful.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like a B&E.
Yeah, it was definitely not the regular B&E.
He's given himself away by trying to not give himself away.
Yeah,
so by trying to make it not leave any evidence, and
right,
make it look like a robbery.
It's like he was an assassin, but he was a professional assassin, but not an extremely professional assassin.
A shit professional assassin.
Oh, he's a mediocre professional.
That's what you want to go for, a mediocre assassin.
So then, I like this montage style that he gets on with in this section. Like, we get 3 quick, very successive. We find the first one, we find our villain down Robin, and he's been cut open. And then we find the next one, which is our Solimo Scandi, and I love these names, by the way.
I know, they're awesome.
Right.
And this guy's been stabbed 1,000 times in the back.
Right. Yeah. He was trying to fight off his attacker, and that didn't work out so well.
And at this point, I think Glockta cottons on that someone in the Inquisition has leaked the list that Salem Roos gave up a couple of chapters ago.
And yeah, so then he has to go meet Archlector Salt to tell him this.
And I love how it's the classic meeting in the park by the duck pond.
Yeah. Well, I always thought of this part as it's like the it's like the spy movie, right? It's like he sits down next to his boss and makes sure no one's listening. And
yeah, all it's missing is just reading a newspaper with the eye holes cut out.
Yeah.
And he's just noticing how there's these young kids playing on a boat, and he's just kind of doing his nihilistic thing where he's like, "Oh, look at those stupid kids being young and stupid. God, if only they knew."
And then Salt does Salt seem surprised?
He doesn't. He turns grim, and I think he immediately comes to the same conclusion that Glockta does. That someone's talking.
Right. That's one of theirs, with somebody in the Inquisition.
And obviously, Glockta defends his two mates.
Of course.
The absolute confidence.
Ironic.
His boys.
And Archlector Salt basically says that nobody in his staff would betray him because he would do horrible, horrible things to them.
Right.
But they're like, so Glockta kind of alludes to it must be a superior K-line. He doesn't say it, but he alludes to it, and Archlector's like, okay, that's a good idea. We'll kind of set a plant and we'll catch the assassin. And then if the assassin is caught and whatnot, then we know it's Superior K-Line.
Right. They need the assassin before they can go after K-Line. That's the plan they have in play. And then Salt tells them that they have one more card to play because everybody on the list has been murdered. Ruse has not been shipped off to England yet.
Which Glockter did not know about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Glockter tried to do his utmost to contain his surprise. So then,
sorry.
Go ahead, George. Go ahead. It's all good.
Sorry, I keep
It's okay.
interrupting you.
Dude, you're good. You're good.
I love this line when he talks about finding the assassin. Squeeze him until the pips squeak.
Oh yeah. The pip squeak.
I've heard of a pip squeak. But the
Mm-hmm.
pip squeak is a good. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
What do you guys think?
No,
I just like the way Salt talks. Period. The way he says, "You must pull the weed from the garden."
Squeeze him to the pip squeak.
You pull a root out and the stem dies. All his little sayings.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's full of them. It's like, I wonder if he has like a little book of sayings that he just like recite.
Yeah, he looks down at his hand.
What's the phrase of the day?
Yeah, yeah. He was like, pull them out by the root, stem and all.
Mm-hmm. Pipsqueak. I feel like this is gonna catch on.
Yeah, that could be a title for the episode.
That'll be the Pipsqueak. That's what. Should I put the Pipsqueak or Pipsqueak?
I'll just pipsqueak. Sounds good. I like it.
Pipsqueak. That's it. Yeah,
An
that's
underappreciated word.
Mm-hmm. It is.
People should use it more often.
They should. We should revert back to Old English. That's what I think.
You cute little pipsqueak and pipsqueak.
Pipsqueak.
That's what I call my wife and hey, come here, you pipsqueak.
Mm-hmm. And then, so Archer Salt's like, all right, you got this in the bag. You handle it. I'm out. And then so Glockta stays on the bench, and he like looks at the people that are around, either gallivanting or in the lake, what have you. He sees a couple that reminds him of him in his youth. Hi everyone, this is your host, Lord Chamberlain Jeff. We just wanted to let you know that this is the first of 2 times that our recording system encountered technical difficulties. For this part, we covered how Lord Marshal Varuz came upon Glockta while he continued to sit on the bench, hating everyone around him. Varuz asked him to speak to Giselle to motivate him for the contest. Glockta agreed to it, even though he harbors resentment towards Varuz. That was what we covered in this missing piece, and now we return to the show. Just harbor resentment in that situation.
And then to top it off, he asked him for a favor.
Yeah, asked him for a favor. That was the whole point of this.
How fucking rude is that?
Super fucking rude.
The entitlement. Ugh.
On Varuz's side of things, there it's like, again, he's part of the close council, right? He's a Lord Marshal, and just like we kind of seeing with Giselle, the way he's talking, it sounds like he kind of cares about his trainees, and he cares about Glockta. Oh, he even tells Glockta he's never going to be as good as you were, but just like all the other members of the close council, he's kind of just out for himself. And that's why, Glockta would look bad on his reputation. The man he trained, him being captured and tortured, so he's not going to associate with him. Even with Giselle, it's quickly seen. It's not even too much of a spoiler to say that he is pretty much out for himself still. So it makes sense why he would go up there and ask him, because he's like, well, my guy isn't doing well. I'll just ask this other person who I never really cared about in the first place.
It's very self-serving. And the favor is, did we talk what the favor was?
No.
George, you want to say it since you were so incredulous?
So Varuz has the gall to ask Glockta to speak with Giselle and get his fucking, get his ass in gear. You know what I mean? And he's delighted by that, isn't he?
Imagine
Glockta doesn't want to waste his time talking to this little fucking whinger.
No, exactly.
Exactly.
But he agrees to do it anyway.
He does.
It's because Glockta, as much as he's let go of the past, still has a few little things that he feels like he has to do. bit of loyalty.
Definitely.
That's true. And he at least tries to, he goes to shake Varuz's hand, and Varuz's like,
Oh, that is sad. Yeah, man.
yeah. Like, he does shake his hand, but it's a limp shake, and he just, like, he's out. It's like,
It's a
Jesus.
pity shake.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Sucks. And then, so that's the end of that chapter. How'd you guys rate that?
How would you rate that chapter, Jeff?
How would I rate that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah,
Mm.
Jeff.
No. Oh.
Tell us,
Oh.
Jeff.
Oh. All right. I'll rate it a 7 out of 9 fingers. I like this chapter a lot just because the intrigue, it becomes like a mystery thriller in this part. It starts to with the whodunit murder, and it turns out there's more than one, and so that means somebody has the list or is aware of the list, and that means there's a rat, there's a snitch in the Inquisition. Just the whole way it's written, I really enjoyed this chapter. And then, like, it's weird, like the part with Varuz, like, it's very sad, but it's one of my favorite parts because it's very human as well. Like,
Absolutely.
It's for
That's a good
someone,
point, Jeff.
yeah, to be someone like, to have it all, and then, obviously, all it takes is for you to lose a couple of teeth, lose a leg or something, and nobody wants anything to do with you. It sucks,
Absolutely, and I mean, I think that's it's part of a stigma that still exists to a certain extent.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we see it. You see somebody who's disabled, and physically, you already know that they're not even slow by any means. As in, you can hold a normal conversation and whatnot with them, and you still, people still hesitate, to come up to them, and not even saying that that me personally wouldn't do the same thing. To be honest, it's one of those situations that, it's you just don't know what to do or say. You don't want to feel sorry for them because they don't want you to feel sorry for them, and you don't know how to approach the situation. And instead of manning up, or being like, all right, I'm going to talk to him because it's the right thing to do. Most of the time, we just want to ignore it.
Absolutely, and I think that's anyway. How would you rate the chapter, Harrison?
I would probably rate the chapter. I would rate the chapter 6 out of 9 fingers because I like the intrigue and stuff like that. I find it very interesting. But overall, I don't think it's an amazing chapter.
I agree. I think a solid 5 fingers out of 9 for me.
Okay. Do you want to expand on that, or you think that's good?
No.
Perfectly encapsulated that.
Okay. I like I've noticed a trend in how we rate the chapters lately. It's always like in ascending or descending order. 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9.
Unless it's like a really good chapter. And then
I know.
9.
9. I like it. All right, that's good. All right, so then our next chapter, our final chapter read through is an offer and a gift. And we're back to our boy, Giselle Dan Luther.
Oh, good old Giselle.
Good old. He's a good old boy.
You love to hate him.
Yeah, you just do. Oh. Harrison, do you want to take this one or George?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, he's kind of just training here in the beginning, isn't he?
Right. Yeah, we see Marshal Varuz back in action after dissing our boy Glocta.
Yeah, more training. He's going for his run in the morning, and obviously, wait, no, that's not how it starts. Sorry.
No, it starts with him getting his ass whipped by Varuz.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. And this guy seems to just love to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, he loves it. He absolutely loves it.
I mean, to be fair to Varuz, apparently he is a pretty good trainer,
I mean, he did train West and Glockter, who both won the contest.
Right. And who knows, maybe other people as well.
Of course, yeah. And
he's basically just pissed that he's not doing very well. That's really all the entire beginning part comes down to.
And I love in this chapter we start to see a lot of Giselle's speech be intoned with a moaned Giselle or whinged Giselle, which is just fantastic because it's from his own perspective. He knows that he's moaning and whinging, but he's going to do it anyway.
Yeah, well, he has the right to,
Yeah, because he's better than everyone else, isn't he?
Yeah, it's true. But here he does have some introspection. Like he believes that he's not going to win the contest anyway.
Mhm.
He's only doing it for what reason? He doesn't even know why.
Yeah. And then on the way back from his fencing
Mm-hmm.
match, he runs into Caspa, and Caspa's with his cousin, who is very, very rich, or a very rich heiress. But Luthar's had his mind on Artie, so and he never really liked the girls from Adua that much, anyways. So it's kind of
Mhm.
funny. I love this conversation between them because Giselle knows that he's not being a very good conversationalist, and he just doesn't care. And Eris is just trying to, be flirtatious and be like, "Oh, is fencing dangerous?" And he's just like, "Yeah." He just is not in for it. And then Caspa, who again just doesn't care about anything, is like, "Oh, ha 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 ha!" He's just laughing and shit. I just love this interaction because it just shows that again, just highlighting the characters is just Al just is like he's got his mind on other things, so whatever else is out there, he just doesn't care about.
Yeah, when she asked him about the situation in the north, he's gonna start off by giving his opinion. Then he's like, "I'm gonna fuck with her," and he goes, "What do you think?"
And she's like,
she's still caught off guard. She's like, "Well, oh, what? Someone's asking me a question? Oh shit!"
I know, and it's kind of sad to her too, to be honest. Because I think we know that. I think we know that her family dies, or her father's old and whatever. So she's probably pretty lonely, and it's just her whole life has been groomed to be set up to be married, and it's kind of sad that she doesn't really have her own opinions.
Definitely.
That sucks.
And it's another character that we get to see later in the Heroes.
So I was trying to figure that out. Is that the same person?
I don't know if it is.
Isn't it?
No,
Oh.
if you're talking about who I think you're talking about, the name is slightly different.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my bad.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
I always thought that as well until recently, until I actually looked it up.
What happened, George? You said something. I heard Harrison.
Sorry.
No, you're sorry. I just said that. I just genuinely thought that was the same person up until now. That's good. So you learn something new every day.
There you go. Yeah, it's.
I mean, we could be wrong.
we totally could be. We are not the foremost experts. We're just three guys that are goofy.
And obviously, this whole conversation, the whole point is to, draw a parallel with RD, and how it's not necessarily what's expected of a lady to be, which I think is a good message.
Right, it's a very good message, and it shows how Giselle's basically like captivated by her. Like it's just she's on his mind.
She does pop up again, but it is in the third book of the series.
I see.
Now it's the third book. Okay. Thank you for that, Adeptus.
Oh yes, of course.
What else? He goes to the Lord's Round. He sees Jalen Horm, he has the hots for Caspa's cousin.
well, he doesn't really though, right? That's awesome.
That's actually what he does. So that's just fantastic. I love how the line is actually you, but Pacey picks. Whoa.
That was a good impression. And he, but I like how it's like he's talking about, oh, isn't she pretty and stuff, and then Giselle, even though he wasn't even paying attention, remembers more details about her. Jalenarm is like, oh, and her body and her face and blah blah blah, and then Giselle's like, I'm sure her money too. He's like, oh, well, that's nice. And what was her name again?
Yeah. Aris. He just kept asking for the name. It's hilarious.
And I do love how Jalenarm just brings up, after all that, the wonderful fair hair, milky white skin, with fantastic blue eyes, and all that money.
and all that.
Oh yeah,
money.
that too. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And then what's the next thing? Oh, so then they go to the open council because it's I guess Jalenhorm's and Giselle's guard duty. They're on guard duty for this.
Yeah,
It's
they're on guard duty for the open council, or
mhm.
looking pretty.
Do you want to expand on this some more, Harrison?
Yeah, so the the leader, or not leader, the spokesman, the Lord's Round is set up in kind of 3 sections, or 4 if you count where the close council sits. So the close council kind of sits at the bottom of like a theater, and then the rest of the open council is set up in a theater sense as if they're the people watching. So like on one side you have you have the leadership of Stericland and England, which both of those nations, well, those uh, regions, a part of the Union, have their own nobility and are fully integrated into the Union. And then on the other side, there is the people from Dagaska and from Westport, because they're not fully integrated. They just they have a say, but they're not like noblemen. They don't use this exact same structure. They're just considered under the protection of the Union. Um, then in the middle, you have the main body of the Open Council, which is the nobility of Midderland, which of course is considered to be by Giselle the true heart of the Union, where they basically all just discuss whatever, kind of what we were talking about previously. So the leader or the spokesman for Dagaska stands up and is like, "The walls of Dagaska are poor," and nobody really cares. He's just trying to get more money for his people because he explains that the Gurkish are just to the south of him, that Dagaska is on a tiny peninsula. They don't have very good defenses. They don't have very many men. They have to deal with the weather and the locals, and nobody seems to really care. Primarily because across the way, the delegation from England is then stands up and talks about how they need more funds because the Northmen are getting riled up and how they're worried about invasion and whatnot. And they all kind of go back and forth and banter, and it's all kind of just nonsense other than a little bit of exposition on what the different provinces are.
Okay. That's a very good explanation. I do want to point out a couple of things. One, the secretaries, or I guess we would call them like in modern
Clerks.
day, the clerks, modern day stenographers. There's so much shouting that literally one of them writes some shouting here. That's it.
I love that line. I forgot about that.
It's so good, so good. And the other one, did we? Oh, we did do a character spot. Of course, it's the gatekeeper from earlier. But if there was another good candidate, it's the announcer. This guy is
I forgot
all
about this
about. This guy is all about his job. He takes it very seriously, and he even when like you said, the delegation from England jumps in and starts yelling. The announcer interrupts that guy to introduce that same guy.
He's like,
hilarious.
"The Open Council recognizes," I don't remember his name, "Fedor Dan Mead."
Something like
Just
that.
stood there
Yeah.
like, yeah, I was talking.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. It's hilarious. So,
And then eventually the Lord Chamberlain Hoff is able to calm everybody down and says that he is good news, and for which they bring in the king, which is the first time we see the king. And man, I love the king so much. King Guslav is brought in like on I want to say a stretcher, but it's not a stretcher. What is he brought in on? It's like a big chair.
oh, it's a palanquin.
Yeah, palanquin.
Yeah, a palanquin.
I love the fact that he's just carried around and he's just he has no fucking idea what's going on.
He's just staring about,
Looking around like a baby, like, oh my fucking god.
Yeah, that's oh my god.
Yeah, I think he even says, "Please rise" or whatever, and
Yeah.
they all sit down because
He
it's what
says,
he
please rise instead of please be seated.
Yeah.
And everybody just sits down because they've obviously been through this like 100 times already, and that everybody knows that he's just an idiot.
Yeah, he's just an idiot.
And he's just sitting there, and he leans over to Hoff, and he's got one of the best lines. He goes, Why am I here? And then they introduce.
And then Hoff goes, "The Northmen, Your Majesty," and he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." He's like, he goes, "What about them?"
And so then the announcer is like, they come into the back doors or whatever, and he's the open council recognizes Fenris the Feared, whatever.
Yeah, so we get the
Go ahead.
the big bait and switch then.
Oh
When
yeah.
Fenris the Fear and White Eye Hansel come back,
Mm-hmm.
and we've
Yeah,
got
like
this.
right, White Eye. He leads them on. You know, he's like, it's an offer of peace. From
And he offers them a jewel.
right, the offer of peace. Oh wait, he says excellent peace, capital peace is good. He said he asked,
Peace, capital.
and then he goes, Bethod asked for one small thing in return for peace. And then Lord, like, Hoff looks pissed off at this. He's like, "What the fuck? Like, what are you talking about? Like, there should have been no price for this." And then the king goes, "Well, he just has to name it, you know? Sure, whatever he wants."
Yeah.
And then Fenris steps forward and he goes, "England." And then they're just everyone's like quiet for a moment, then they all lose their collective shit.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I would have too. I mean, Jeff, imagine this. We're all sitting there, and Mexico comes up to the president of the United States in fucking Congress, and it's like, "So, are we thinking about declaring war? But we're not going to." And he's like, "Oh, that's great. So long as you give us back Texas."
I'm like, Texas? How dare you? And then Fenris grabs he takes off his cloak basically, and then we see Fenris without the cloak, and it is a doozy. So he is the biggest man that Giselle has ever seen, at least. His face is in constant sneering, twisted motion. Hi everyone, I'm back again. This is the second time where we had technical difficulties. This portion, we described how Fenris the Feared revealed himself by taking off his cloak, exposing his body. This larger-than-life character is described by having the entire left half of his body covered in tiny lettered blue runes, and he gives off a sense of fear and doom to the people in his vicinity. So he Fenris is England named as Bethod's champion and challenges anyone to fight him for the region, when Fenris, while brandishing a knife. Fenris that was what we grabs a knife and, now we stabs himself in the arm.
Which is just the ultimate power move, isn't it?
It is.
It's not a small knife either. It goes like all the way through his arm or something.
Yeah? No, it goes all the way through his arm. Blood's dripping on the floor. Then does he take the knife out yet at this point? Oh no, he takes it out.
He leaves it in.
He leaves it in. He's like, "Oh, fight me!" And everyone's just scared shitless. The announcer collapses.
Yeah, he passes out. Yeah. I forgot about that.
The wording is, the announcer, who was closest to the Feared and already on his knees, swooned and collapsed on his face. And so he looks at one big knight, and he asks him, "You?" And that guy's like, he just backs away. He's asked you to Fedor Dan Mead, and he's like, "Nope." And then he looks at Giselle, and then he asks Giselle, "Will you fight me?" And then Giselle, you got to give him credit for this like one-liner. What does he says? He says, I would, but I'm terribly busy this afternoon. Perhaps tomorrow."
Yeah. Everyone's been there where you know you just say something in a stressful situation and you just think afterwards like, what the fuck did I say that for?
I even think that too. He's like, did I say that?
Yeah, he's like, was that my voice? And then Fenris, gives. Wait, hold on. I just gotta read this, because then Fenris goes, "Tomorrow, then," he whispered. Giselle's guts gave a sudden painful shift.
Yeah.
Like he was about to shit himself.
He's literally about to shit himself.
Oh,
Oh.
oh my god! And then Lord Hoff he regains his composure, you know, and
He's a pretty brave dude.
yeah, you know, he's a douchebag and you know great character, but he's a brave dude. You gotta give him that. And then let's see. And then he's like, "All right, you guys need to chill the fuck out. That's not happening. No,
He's like, get out of here.
get out of here. There will be no duel here. There's no issue to decide. England is part of the union by ancient law." And then I was like,
Ancient law.
right. And then White Eye's like, ancient? Like, you guys have only had it for 100, 200 years. There were Northmen there living free. So it was basically, he's saying like, the only law that you guys are claiming is basically, you know, law of conquest, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
Which is
And that-
interesting.
Mhm.
Saying that, you know, does
Mhm.
the North deserve England?
I mean, yeah, is the North actually ultimately justified
Right.
in their war? Because, you know, they were conquered.
Mm-hmm.
So why shouldn't they take it back?
Yeah, I know,
That's
right?
true. No,
It's
that's
like,
true.
you know, but then again, you know, that's also like just like in our world, it's a very dangerous sentiment. That used to be our land, so give it back.
Mm.
But
That's true. Here we get to the part where Fenris takes the knife out of his arm, and then that's it. There's no wound on the tattooed flesh, which is obviously very how do I say
disturbing.
it? Disturbing.
Yeah.
So now you know this guy's got some supernatural aura abilities for sure in this case. And then
Oh, yeah.
White Eye,
He's just completely invulnerable. Like,
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And then White Eye tells him, you know, all right, well, you'll hear from us. We'll send you 3 signs, right? I think, yeah. He's like, when it's
Yes.
time. And then Hoff is like, send 300, but get the fuck out of here.
yeah.
Hoff was like, Jesus Christ, the entire open council was freaked the fuck out. I need to get my control. I did not expect this to happen.
Mhm.
And
then,
once again, the best line in the whole chapter is the last line.
oh,
The king
absolutely.
turns to the chamberlain and says, "So, when are the Northmen getting here?"
Right, because we have to remember when Fenris is losing his shit and he's going England, like the king puts his face in his hands and he's like, oh my god.
yeah,
He's like, I can't handle this shit.
no, fuck that.
At this point, you know he's really asking himself, why am I here?
Yeah. Why do I do this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the king is
Why
thinking,
do I do this?
yes,
Oh,
friends, capital.
Mm, capital. So, how would you guys rate that chapter?
Harrison.
Man, I love this chapter with all the craziness. I love the way Pacey delivers the England scream. I like how just about to shit himself. I love the king. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say 8 fingers out of 9 for this one.
Oh, nice score. Nice score. Okay. Okay. George?
I'd say 7
Oh.
because I
George
do
is
I
a.
do a
Go
little
ahead.
bit more critical of this one.
Okay. How so?
I don't know specifically, but it does seem to just drag on just a tiny bit for me.
I would I understand that, like from the beginning. I think it's where it kind of drags there, like the constant berating by Varus, and then like the interaction with Aris
Harris.
Yeah.
yeah, Aris. I think
And
that kind of drags it a little bit.
absolutely.
Yeah, and you're right, George, too, because like the Varus thing, every line and stuff develops the character, and they don't really waste any time. He doesn't really waste time, but sometimes, like you said, it can be not as necessary to have this in-depth thing. Like they had the Dagosca guy start speaking. We needed to see how the Open Council worked, but it can be
I
kind of
love the
boring.
open council part of the chapter. It is really just that first part.
Mm-hmm.
Just I'm not being too critical here, and Joe definitely learns his lesson. I think with these the first 2 especially, where
Yes.
he's already iterated the point and he doesn't need to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
it's still good character building, like you say, Harrison.
Oh yeah, it's still hilarious. Yeah, I would have to go with Harrison on this one. I think it's an 8 out of 9 fingers for me. Because
Take that, George. I'm just kidding.
You guys won't be laughing when you're in the docks.
George is
What?
what?
Docks, you say? Bloated, you say?
Docs, is it? Torture?
What'd you say your name was?
Oh God. Yeah, 8 out of 9 because I really do like this chapter. The open council, it's a great part. I love when Giselle gets the shit beat out of him. So Veru just constantly berating him is great. Love it, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's what I got for that chapter. All right.
Excellent.
Well, that's our show, everyone. We want to thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. As you all know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
Interested in learning more, go to Circle of the World podcast on any good social media, including Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and of course here on Reddit. If you have any questions or anything you want us to discuss or contribute, just email us at circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you listen to podcasts on. And please rate and review this podcast as it helps us spread our reach due to the algorithm. Thank you all again for listening.
Squeeze him until the pips squeak.